morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 70 of my Yarny Corner. My name's Alex and I live in Yorkshire in the UK, and this is a podcast all about knitting and crochet. So it has been quite a while since I last filmed a podcast. We've just had February vlogs. The dog wants to come over. If you didn't watch the February vlogs, I did talk a little bit on there about switching the podcast to monthly, just because there are other things that I want to do with the channel, so it just makes much more sense for me to come once a month and film the podcast. I do have less whips now. If you've been around for a little bit of time, you'll know that I did get quite strict with myself this year and have less whips on the go at one time, which just means if I'm filming a podcast every 2 weeks that I'm going to be talking about the same things because I have less whips, and it may get a little bit boring. So I am going to be filming once a month. Around the first week of each new month is when I'll bring a new episode out, but there will be plenty of things coming to the channel. You won't miss out. As you know, we always do vlogs, and there are plenty of other things coming to the channel. So, before I get into anything, all the information about where you can find me is linked in the description box below this video. If you just click the little more button, you'll see it'll bring up a whole description box. Anything that I talk about will be linked there. Where you can find me, the email address, the website, Danny's Instagram, my Instagram, all linked there. I will say I am barely on Instagram anymore. I did get a little bit frustrated with it, to be perfectly honest, with the amount of adverts that have come to Instagram, and you're only seeing posts that have got a lot of likes on them, and that's not how I like to do things. I like to see everybody's work. So I got a little bit frustrated with it, and it's kind of just phased out. I'm very, very active in the Facebook group. There is a Facebook group for my Yarny Corner. I'm very active in there, and I find that a much nicer space to catch up with everybody because I see everything and I don't miss out on anybody's things. So I do post on Instagram, just not very often. Danny uses Instagram more than I do. So if you want to find out anything about my Yarny Corner, you're better off following Danny on Instagram. Right, we have got quite a bit to talk about today, so you may need to settle in. But before I get into any of that, I'm going to show you what I'm wearing because we've been out this morning and it is absolutely freezing. It's got to be minus something outside, and I've had this on and I am not taking it off yet. I've just put the heating on in the house, which is why I'm sat on the sofa as well, which is a new place to sit for the podcast. But I'm so cold. So this is the Festive cheer cowl. It was one of my first proper knitting projects and it is beautiful. It was all made with mini skeins. I think I had 20 gram minis, but I have a feeling it only used 10 grams. But it's absolutely lovely, and it's just, I'll just take it off a minute just to show you. If you've not seen it before, you start off very similar to the litmus cowl with a provisional cast on. You knit a big tube, no ends to weave in because all the ends are inside, and you just knit away until you've used all your colours. I am going to put it back on because it is so warm and cosy that I need it on today. I absolutely need it on today. Right, I've got a few finished objects to talk about. Some of them were done a while back. So when was the last time I filmed a podcast? I think it was January. And obviously today is the 4th of March. 4th of March today. It is 10 to 11 in the morning. So we've got a little bit to talk about. So let's just get into the podcast. Right. First things first, finished object number 1 is, I made this little tiny Snoopy. Oh, I couldn't resist it. Now, this is obviously crochet, amigurumi. This was a free pattern on Instagram. I can't remember off the top of my head the lady's name, but I will put it on the screen and I'll write it in the description box below as well. If you go onto her Instagram page, you'll see the picture and the pattern is there in the pictures. There were a few mistakes in the pattern, but there were obvious mistakes. So if you are familiar with amigurumi, normally when you do amigurumi, you know, when you're increasing, it'll say, you know, 6 single, I'm not giving anything away about the pattern, this is standard amigurumi. 6 single crochets into a magic ring, and then you do 2 single crochets into each stitch. Then you do 1 single crochet, 2 in the next, then 2 single crochets, 2 in the next, then 3 single crochets, 2 in the next, and that's how it goes on. So in this pattern, the mistakes are glaringly obvious because it doesn't follow that pattern. So if you're familiar with amigurumi, you'll have absolutely no trouble doing this. If you're not familiar with amigurumi, you may struggle a little bit. Like I say, there were a few mistakes. Look at his little tail. But he is the most adorable. You know how much I love Snoopy. I just think he is amazing. If you can hear any chewing, the dog is sitting here chewing a bone right next to me. I do apologise. I'll just try and talk loudly over her. But she's settled. So yeah, he was one of the first things I made after the last podcast. It didn't take long to make at all. I think it was sort of like 24 hours to make. I've used DK weight yarn. This is Women's Institute, and I think I used a 3mm hook for this. I can't remember what the pattern called for. To be honest with amigurumi, I tend to use DK weight yarn and a 3mm hook regardless of what the pattern says. But yeah, he's just adorable. I love him. I absolutely love him. So that is finished object number 1. And then for my birthday, my friend Sue sent me a lovely, lovely care package. I won't show you everything that's in it because I've got everything put away, but she did send me some sock tubes. I love sock tubes. I absolutely love them. And my friend Sue knows this. So she sent me 3, I think, sock tubes. I haven't done anything with all of them yet. I just cracked into one because I wanted some really long mittens. I've had to go and rescue these from the car because they stay in my glove box. So I split the sock tube in half and I made some really long mittens. Now, these are fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I'll show you what I mean. I just wanted some long slouchy mittens. I have a denim coat that I wear a lot and I always wear it with the sleeves rolled up. So when it's weather like this, my arms get cold. So I just wanted some mittens that, there we go, that would be slouchy, that I could just sling on when I had my denim jacket on, and these are perfect for that. So I broke the sock tube in half and then I split it in half again to get these really long mittens. Now, I did put an afterthought thumb in, obviously, because I had a sock tube. I wouldn't recommend it. It was, I'm not going to lie, it's not something I'd ever do again. It was a little bit of a nightmare. I don't mind splitting sock tubes. I don't mind cutting my knitting. I have no problem doing anything like that. But what I found when I put this afterthought thumb in was I didn't need, obviously, a lot of stitches. I only have very little thumbs, so I didn't need a lot of stitches. So once I cut into the yarn, when you do an afterthought heel, you cut the yarn in the middle and then you unravel it so you've got an end at each end of the heel to weave in later. I used that same method for this afterthought thumb, but because there were so few stitches, I had such a little end and it was just a bit of a nightmare trying to get that end secured. It was just a little bit of a nightmare. So my first one, you can see I had to do some surgery on it because the end just was not long enough to weave through. So when it came to the second one, I thought, right, okay, so this time I'll make sure I've got a longer end by starting at one side rather than starting in the middle of the thumb. This is going to make no sense to anybody if you've not done any sort of afterthought anything. But that was my plan. The end still wasn't long enough, so I still struggled. The second one is much better and I have got the end woven in, but how long it's going to last, I don't know. It's not something I would recommend. If you put a forethought thumb in, it'd work fine, but not for an afterthought. I just don't think a thumb is big enough for it to be afterthought, because you have to be able to secure that end. And that's just my opinion. Other people might have a different opinion. But yeah, it's not something I'd do again. So the rest of my sock tubes are going to be for socks. This is a Hobie yarn, I believe, and it's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The other half of the tube is going for socks. I might do that this week, actually. But she knows me well. She knows I love pinks and greys and blacks. They're just pink and grey, or pink and black. It's one of my favourite combinations. It really is. So that is that. I have one more finished object to talk about, which is also a new pattern. If you've not watched the vlogs, you won't know anything about this. This is my new sock pattern that is coming out, and I'm hoping it'll be released this week. I'll pop it onto a YouTube community post when it's released, and I'll pop it into the Facebook group when it's released. But yeah, I have done another sock pattern. I have most of the testers back now, and this is the new socks. So these are the honey and nectar socks. So this bit here is meant to be the honeycomb, and this bit here is the nectar. I absolutely love them. They come in 3 sizes, small, medium and large, and the testers all love them. This here is actually the bubble stitch, and I did say on the vlogs, whether or not I did a tutorial for this bubble stitch would depend on the testers. None of the testers had any difficulty at doing this, so I'm hoping it's okay. They all said it was really easy to follow from the instructions that I'd given and the photographs that I'd given in the pattern. But yeah, these are the honey and nectar socks. Oh, I have had these saved for so long. I've been itching to wear them, but I've been good and I've saved them for the podcast. The patterning, if I just open the sock out properly, the patterning goes all the way around the leg. But once you've done this bit, it's really easy. You're just into a vanilla sock. So all the work is at the top. It does have this little contrast on the cuff. You don't have to add that. If you like that style, add it. If you don't, then don't. But yeah, it's just lovely. I absolutely love these. These were my first girly pattern that I've done. The sock patterns that I have been designing have been patterns that Danny can wear. So this was my first girly pattern, and I'm really, really pleased with it. So they are the honey and nectar socks. Aren't they lovely? So they will be available this week. Like I say, I'll pop it on a YouTube community post and Instagram and the Facebook group and all of those places when it's released. It's just a case of me pulling my finger out and uploading the pattern to Ravelry, but I will do it this week. So that is those. I feel like I've really rushed through this podcast, but I don't think I have. I think we're okay. But yeah, I absolutely love them. So I can finally wear these. I should actually say, you need about 60 grams of a main colour and a 20 gram contrasting colour for these socks. I've tried to keep the contrasting colour to 20 grams because a lot of us have got a 20 gram mini kicking around. So the majority of the testers have used between 14 and 15 grams of a contrast. I've put 20 grams. If you're doing the bigger size, you're probably going to need the full 20 grams. But they are absolutely lovely. They're a lovely, lovely pattern. So 60 grams of a main colour and 20 grams of a contrast colour. And the 3 sizes that they come in are 56, 64 and 72 stitches. There was something else I was going to say then as well. I can't remember what it was. It was something about these socks. Oh, yeah, that was it. You can work them in self-striping yarn, any of those things, but just be aware that this bit is seed stitch. So if you've got a highly variegated yarn, you're going to see it a lot in this section. Not so much here, but certainly here. So I've kept my yarns quite plain looking, so you can really see the pattern. It's going to be harder to see the pattern if you're using a self-striping or a highly variegated yarn, but it doesn't matter. It's your socks. You can do with them whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, I really love those. And I have one more finished object. So, before we get into all the whips, how am I going to say this? What was my motivation for casting this on? I absolutely have no idea, other than I just wanted to. I have made a gift for Danny. I'm just going to sit up a little bit. I feel like I'm really low. I've made a gift for Danny. It's something that I made years ago. Long before I had a podcast, long before I really had any social media presence, I'd made one for Finn. And one night last week I was sitting, you know when you just sit there and you think about patterns and you just think, oh, I remember that pattern. I really liked that pattern. I wonder if I should make that again. Which then led me to going onto my Etsy and looking at all my patterns. So before I was a knitter, I was an avid amigurumi maker. That's all I made were toys, nothing else, just toys. So I had a lot of patterns on Etsy that were just toys. Incidentally, I'm repeating myself if you've seen this on the vlog, so I do apologise. Incidentally, I was always wanting to be a knitter, so I had some patterns on there which were knitted, but I didn't have the skills to do them, so I've never made them. So I sat and I re-downloaded all these patterns the other day, and I decided I would make one of them for Danny, which is called Rabbit Dude, and it is by Little Owl's Hut on Etsy. I will link it in the description box below. Now, I said a little bit ago that I always do my patterns in DK weight yarn, which I always have done. This is not a DK weight yarn pattern. I'm not sure what it is. It's not clear what the yarn is, but it's not a DK weight. It's a thinner yarn. So mine is probably larger than some because I've done it in DK weight. But I have made this for Danny and he absolutely loves it. And when you see it, you're going to laugh your socks off because it's the funniest thing ever. But it is right up Danny's street. So this is Rabbit Dude. And he is ginormous. He's got his leg twisted there. It is a fabulous pattern. I absolutely love him. I have done everything to pattern except for the ears. Last night, I wanted to finish it last night, and if I'm totally honest, the ears are supposed to dangle right down here, and I just could not face all that crocheting anymore. I just wanted it done at that point. I'd had enough. It's a fun make, it's a fabulous make, but I cast this on last Tuesday and I just wanted it to be done, so I shortened the ears and made them kind of right. So DK weight yarn, I have used Women's Institute DK yarn in grey and black. And I'm going to say it is a pattern for an advanced crocheter because just because of the face. When you make this, I don't think I've still got a picture. When you make this, let me see if I can, one sec, hang on. Just going to interrupt myself a little bit there because actually it's probably the size that it's supposed to be looking at this picture here. I can't find a picture on there, so I can't go into it too much. I thought there was a picture on the listing on Etsy. When you make the face, there is a lot of stitch markers to put in place, and you kind of make just a ball shape with this little bit on top, and it is just a ball shape. Once you've finished it, there is an awful lot of sculpting involved to get it into the shape of the face. So you're putting stitch markers in, as long as you follow the pattern. And I made this, it must be 12 years ago the first time I made this pattern. It was a long time ago, and I wasn't that experienced then. When I've come to make it again, I was quite shocked that I was able to make this all that time ago. I wasn't experienced in that kind of thing. I've always been a crocheter, but I was shocked looking back on it that I was able to do it. The pattern is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. She has you put stitch markers at certain points in it, so when it comes to sculpt the face, you follow in the stitch markers, so it makes it really easy. So I'm probably making it sound scarier than what it is. It's not, it's easy, but I think you have to have some experience of amigurumi, really, in order to do it. I love the eyes. Absolutely love the eyes. I didn't put the tail on. He's supposed to have a little tail, but I didn't put that on either. I'd had enough by that point. It's fabulous. The other thing that you need to do with this pattern is, because the pattern is so well written, every aspect of this pattern has been thought about. I mean, if you look at the feet, let me just sit in there. There is a right and a left foot, and you can see the shaping that's gone into that foot to give it that. And the same with the hands. There is, oh, you get your hands right. There's a right and left hand as well, and you can see the shaping that's gone into it. So because the pattern is so well thought out, it's absolutely fantastic. What you need to do as you're crocheting is you need to keep the marker straight. So when you're crocheting with amigurumi, the best way to mark the beginning of a round is just to use a piece of yarn. I can't even show you because I've got nothing. I'll try and pop a picture on the screen. You use a piece of yarn to mark the beginning and the end of your round, and you just move that yarn up each round. So you kind of need to use that method when you're crocheting this, and it asks you to keep the marker straight, which means you've got to work shift stitches in order. Crochet is a spiral. When you're crocheting with anything amigurumi, it's a spiral. So the beginning of round, like so, for example, I'm not making much sense, I do apologise. I have not kept the marker straight on the legs. So you can see that's the end of the round here, where I've changed the colour. You can see the spiral, but as you go up the leg, that moves round the leg. Can you see? So it's like here at this point, and then it's here, and then it's here. It moves because it's a spiral. So what you need to do is you need to work shift stitches, which means just work a couple of extra single crochets to bring that beginning of round back central, and that is the most important aspect of this pattern, because if you don't do that, the shaping won't work. But yeah, it's just fabulous. Obviously there are things like this in it where each of the fingers are crocheted individually and then you join them all on to make the hand. It is just, the pattern itself is a work of art. It really is a work of art. It's just fantastic. I've left him floppy. I could have put wire into his neck, but I didn't want to, because look at him. He's the most chilled out rabbit on the planet. I didn't want him all, you know, sitting upright and being all, I don't know, prim and proper, because he's not. He's that kind of, yeah, dude. He's just ace. And Danny absolutely loves him. Although Danny has said he wants him in a football kit, so that may be coming at some point. But yeah, this is Danny's die mascot. He does have a name. He's called McLeod. I don't know why he's called McLeod, but that's his name. Danny said that is his name. He's absolutely a McLeod. And yeah, he's just fantastic.
He's named after the Highlander, that's why.
Oh, he's named after the Highlander, that's why. And he's just fabulous. He's absolutely fabulous. The pattern comes in French, Italian, Dutch, German, Danish, Polish, Hebrew and English. Fantastic. Now, the pattern is £7.20 UK. This pattern is worth so much more than that. If this pattern was £15, I would pay it. It's worth every single penny. It's just fabulous. If you just wanting something fun and it's just fabulous. So that is McLeod and that is for Danny. Incidentally, Little Owl's Hut on Etsy has some fabulous patterns. If you have never crocheted anything from Little Owl's Hut before, I would highly recommend having a look. She has some fabulous patterns on there. I'm just gonna, because I'm sure there's another one that I've done by Little Owl's Hut. Oh no, it isn't. It's one that I've always wanted to do. So look at this one. I've never done it because I'm not sure I would be able to do this justice. But this is also one I really would like to do. Look at that. I just love it. I just love it. Years ago, when Jake was absolutely tiny, there was this ornament in this shop and it was called Barbara the Witch and it looked just like that. And I was absolutely sick for it, absolutely sick for it. It was quite pricey. I'm saying quite pricey at the time. I think it was about 40 quid. I could never afford to buy it. And I was absolutely sick for it. And my friend bought me it and I treasured it. I just loved it. And that just reminds me of it. It eventually got broken, this ornament. But that reminds me of it. But she's got some fabulous patterns. And I believe I had a quick look earlier. Yes, it's there. She's brought out, obviously the Rabbit Dude must be a really popular pattern. She's brought out a Rabbit Dude small, which is this one as well. So you can make a small one as well. Isn't it fabulous? So I am so pleased with it. I really am. That is that. Right. We are half an hour in. I best get on to some works in progress. I only have 2. Well, I do have some socks, but I'm not showing them today. So I've only got 2 works in progress. I do have another finished object, but I'm not going to show it on the podcast. It's the cardigan. I'll pop a picture on the screen. It had its own video, so I don't think I need to talk about it on the podcast. If you want to see my thoughts and musings on that cardigan, it has its own video, which is on the channel as well. I think it was called My First Knit Flat Garment. So you can go ahead and look at that video if you want to know the pattern, all that kind of stuff about that cardigan. Right, so I've got a bag somewhere. Here it is. Works in progress. Like I say, I've been good. I only have 2. So first of all, I'm going to get into this one. Now, this pattern, I didn't find it myself. I can't remember off the top of my head who the pattern is by, but it'll be linked in the description box below. It is the scrap wrap. Now, I couldn't remember where I'd seen this pattern, and I was showing it on the vlog. Somebody commented and said it was the Summer Lee video. I love to watch Summer Lee. She's got her own podcast. She's a fantastic sock designer, and she'd obviously shown it on there, so that's where I'd seen this pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and it's called the Scrap Wrap. And this is it. So the idea behind this is you just use all of your scraps to make one big wrap. Am I showing you the back? No, I'm showing you the front. So all this is half fisherman's rib, and I am making it as scrappy as I possibly can. I'm getting all of my scraps put into this, and I am really enjoying it. If I were to do this again, this is 121 stitches wide. I want to use this as a scarf. So I'd never done half fisherman's rib before, so I didn't really know what to expect. from what I've learned, my understanding is if you're knitting half fisherman's rib flat, you need an odd number of stitches. If any of you are doing it and you want to make a scarf like me, I would say you don't need as many as 121 stitches. It's very, very wide. If I was to make this again, I'd probably do 81 stitches and take a good 40 off there. But can you see it's quite wide? It doesn't matter because I absolutely love it. And I'm pleased that I've got 121 stitches. But if I was doing it again for the length that I want it, I think 81 stitches wide for me would make it just go that bit quicker. But yeah, doesn't matter. I absolutely love it. I'm still going to carry on with it. I would like this 70 inches long for a really long scarf that I can wrap around my neck a couple of times. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to go to 70 inches. This could end up... What I've said to myself is 70 inches is the goal and 60 inches is the cop-out. So if I only get to 60 inches, that's absolutely fine. It will still be long enough. Half fisherman's rib is not difficult. I was really concerned at first that I was going to find this really, really hard to do. It's not difficult. You've got one row where you knit one into the stitch below, purl one all the way across, and then it's a knit row back. So you've always got every other row is a really, really easy row. Now I do believe that if you do half fisherman's rib in the round, your knit row is a purl row. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it is. But obviously this is knit flat and it's just fabulous. It is filled with mistakes at the bottom. While I was getting used to doing it, I just made mistake after mistake. You can't even see, you can't even tell. And I am just throwing in all of my scraps. And I just love it. Absolutely love it. It's about 24 inches. I've not worked on it for a few days because I've been doing my cloud. But yeah, I really, really love it. And it's a nice project when you're watching TV because you're just concentrating every other row. So it's a nice project to do. It's worked up really quickly. In the first week when I couldn't put it down, I managed 20 inches in a week. But you know, it was a new project, and you know what it's like with a new project. You just want to work on it all the time and not do anything else. So it was kind of like that for the first week, and then I started slowing a little bit. As we all do with projects, that's completely normal. When you first cast something new on, it's the best thing in the world, and it's all you want to work on, and you don't want to work on anything else. Then after a week, you're like, meh. But I'm still really enjoying it. It's so squishy. It is like brioche. It feels like brioche. It is amazing. I love it. Just, oh, I can't wait to wear this. I'm not rushing because by the time this is finished, the weather will have warmed up. I won't need it. So I won't be able to wear it until at least October. So it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's just a lovely project. And if it does take a little bit longer, it works out better because I'll have more scraps. You can see my scrap jar up there. I was working through that and that was overflowing to the point that the lid wouldn't even fit on. Some of the scraps in there I won't use. The solid colours I won't use because they are so good for heels, toes and cuffs, so I won't use those. But all my little bitty bits, I want to get into it. But like I say, if it takes a bit longer, it just gives me more time to get more scraps together. This is my favourite, this one. I was really unsure about putting that one in. That is a Knit Picks. My friend Sue bought it for me and she sent me it and I loved it. And I've got socks in it. But I wondered if it was too dark. It's the only commercial yarn I've got in it. But that's my favourite section. But yeah, all the rest of it is my hand-dyed scraps, just because for softness, sometimes with commercial yarn, it can just be a little bit scratchy, which is fine for socks or granny squares or whatever. But I wanted this really soft, so it's Knit Picks is okay. Knit Picks is soft like butter. But the rest of it is just hand dyed, and I love it so much. I really do. So that's my first work in progress. And my second work in progress is Danny's cardigan. I'm going to pop a picture on the screen. For those of you that have been following along with the February vlogs, you are going to tell me off because it's had no progress since the last vlog. But I was working on Rabbit Dude, so it's fine. But Danny wanted a cardigan and I did cast it on for him. I've done the back, I've done both sleeves, I'm just on the front. And this is as far as I've got on the front. In my defence, this is chunky weight yarn and it really hurts my shoulder. So I can only do an hour at a time, which is fine. I want to have this finished by the end of March because it is part of the make-along at the moment. I'm running a little make-along on Ravelry, which is the Oh Go On Then Mal. And this is part of that, so it has to be finished by then, which it will be. I'm going to do some work on this today. I'm going to try and get 20 to 30 rows done on this today. And then once I've finished the front, it's just a case of sewing it together, putting the collar on and the buttons on, and it's done. It's probably got about 2 weeks worth of work on it left to go. If I do it at this pace that I'm doing it, which is not very fast. I have only been putting in 10 rows a day. Like I say, my shoulder's been so painful. I have a torn rotator cuff in my shoulder. It does need surgery. I won't have surgery. I just put up with it. But sometimes when I'm doing things like this, it just aggravates it and makes it worse. But yeah, it's lovely. I am going to get on with it this week and try and push through and get it finished. But yeah, it's a really fun pattern. The yarn is Stylecraft, I believe. Let me just, yeah. Stylecraft Special Chunky. And the colour is Graphite. It's funny because it is grey, but in certain lights it's got a green tinge to it. We were talking about this at Knit Group last week. And my friend Susie said, on your vlogs, it sometimes looks green. And I sort of laughed and I said, oh, that'll just be, you know, what the camera does to colours, which, you know, different monitors can change the colour of things. But since Susie said that, I've seen it myself when I've been looking at it. Sometimes it's just got a green tinge to it. But yeah, it's lovely. I'm doing the smallest size for Danny. The measurements that I've used are based off one of his favourite jumpers, which has turned out to be the smallest size. I mean, the back, let me just show you this. So that's the sleeve. This is the back. It looks massive, but I've measured it. So that's the back. When I wondered what that was then. It was the cushion tickling my arm. I thought, what's that? I thought it was a spider. When I say massive, I mean the length. But it's the same as one of his jumpers. But yeah. So it should fit. I'm not worried it's not going to fit because it's all the same measurements as one of Danny's jumpers. It's one of the same things, isn't it? When you look at a knitting pattern, or I do, maybe it's just me, I tend to always veer to size large, regardless of what those measurements say. Because if I was in a shop, I buy size large everything. For myself, for Danny, for the boys, always just size large. So I do the same thing with knitting patterns and I just veer to that size. So when you're knitting something and it's not that size, it kind of gets in your head of, it's not going to fit then. You're not doing the right size. So it's weird, but I've measured it, double checked it, triple checked it, and it matches the size of Danny's jumper. And that's probably going to grow a little bit as well because it's unblocked. So it could actually end up being a little bit too big, but we shall see. It's my first ever garment for Danny. So I feel like I'm sailing blind a little bit with it because if I'm making something for myself, I tend to know the stitch count on different weight yarns that I need. And with Danny, I'm kind of like, I don't know. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. But yeah, it's nearly there. So everyone that's been saying to me during the vlogs, get on with Danny's cardigan. It's coming and it's nearly there. And that is it for all of the knitting content. Like I say, we have just had February vlogs and we had an absolute blast during February vlogs. We really did. That finished on, was Thursday the last day? I think Thursday was the last day. So yeah, we just had an absolute blast. And yeah, oh yes, we had the shop update last week. I did put pictures on the community post on YouTube, but I felt a little bit bad because normally I show the yarn in the podcast, but it just went onto a community post. So hopefully you all did see that. The advents are on sale at the moment. The listing for month 1 of the advent comes down on Friday. So if you do want to take part in the advent this year and you're still having to think about it, you've got till Friday if you want to purchase month 1. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the advents and you don't know how the My Yarny Corner advent works, we did put a video out last week all about the advent for 2024. So go and check that out if you don't know how the advent works and you're thinking about taking part. Basically, we sell the advent over the course of a year. So you purchase 3 days at a time. So you're in control of how many of the advents that you want to buy. So you can buy all 24, you can buy just 12, you could just buy 6. It's completely up to you. And it's just an easier way to purchase the advent. You're just paying for it each month. The only problem is you're not to peek at it. So, on to life updates. There's not, because we've been doing the February vlogs, I kind of feel like you've seen everything over the past month. I get my new glasses tomorrow, which I'm very, very excited about. I've got some greeny blue ones coming, which I'm really pleased about because I've had black glasses since I started wearing glasses and I just want a change. So they are like a greeny blue colour. And then I've got some red ones for my reading glasses. I pick those up tomorrow, so I'm very, very excited about that. And, oh, those of you that have been asking about Josh had his contact lens trial. That was last Friday. He did so well. He really did. I was no help whatsoever. I can't cope with somebody putting something in their eye, not even eye drops. So I was no help. So he had to do it all himself. But he's done really well. He's had them for a few days now and he's got a trial for a month to see how he finds it. And is really loving them. So he's doing really well with those. He's got a birthday on the 15th of March and he's starting his driving lessons. Josh is, if you're new, is my middle son. And so he's going to be 17 on the 15th of March and his first driving lesson is on the 18th of March. How exciting. I'm a little bit nervous about that, but so that was that. What else has gone on? I don't think anything else has really happened. Not since a few days since we were last together. I did mention at the end of the February vlogs that we were taking a little bit of a break from vlogging just because we'd done a lot of vlogging over the past few months. Did we do July vlogs? I think we did July, September, November. Then I did all the shorts in December. Then we did Birthday Bonanza. Then we did February vlogs. So yeah, I would just like a little bit of a break from the vlogs at the moment. So we're looking at coming back in maybe June for vlogs, but we'll see. Sometimes I say, oh, it'll be a while, and then I come back the month after, but it won't be next month. But yeah, we're having a little bit of a break from vlogging at the moment. Danny is going to be doing a new series on the channel as well, which is a Dye with Danny series. He's looking at me now because he didn't expect me to say it on the podcast, but I'm so saying it on the podcast. Because once I've said it on the podcast, you see, he can't say no, because I know that you will all keep him accountable. So he is going to be doing a Dye with Danny series, which is once a month. Possibly going to start it next month. He's laughing. He's like looking at me as if to say, I can't believe you are saying this, Alex. Yeah, starting next month, and it'll just be once a month, just teaching you all how to do some yarn dyeing, which is going to be really fun. So that's one of the new things that's coming to the channel. There is something very exciting happening this month, but I am sworn to secrecy at the moment. I'm not going to say what it is, but that's happening mid-month-ish. So yeah, that's happening this month. Then there's some other little bits and bobs that I want to sprinkle in along the way, which you'll see as time goes on. But yeah, so it's been lovely to catch up with you all. It really has. My plans for the next week or two is going to be to finish Danny's jumper, because there is the new Helen Stewart Mystery shawl coming out. That starts on the 21st of March. I will link it in the description box below. If you've never done a mystery before, a Helen Stewart one, which is Curious Handmade, is a fabulous one to do, because a Curious Handmade pattern is just amazing. So that starts on the 21st of March. I would like Danny's cardigan finished by then. So I've not got two big projects on the go. So I'm going to be pulling my finger out this week and next week and making sure I get on with Danny's cardigan and get that finished. But that's going to be my new cast on for March. And other than that, I've got no plans to cast any... Kind of I have. I always say I've got no plans to cast anything on, but there's things percolating in my mind of what I might want to cast on. So there is some sort of things going on, but no concrete plans for anything yet, apart from the Helen Stewart pattern. So, and I think that might be everything. I think I've managed to squeeze everything in. I don't think there's anything I've forgotten, but if there's something I've forgotten, I'll talk about it on the next episode. Let me just check my Ravelry before I let you go. Let me just check my Ravelry and make sure that I have mentioned everything. I'm quite good with Ravelry now. I put all of my projects in there, so it's a really good way of me keeping up with things. Danny's cardigan, yeah. The berry, that was on the last podcast, so I've already talked about that. Everything is there. I am up to date with projects, up to date. And do you know what? I found having no more than 4 whips on the go really easy. I've not struggled at all, and I've felt much more comfortable with that number. 3 is the amount that I would really like, but if I cast on another one because I really want to, then that's fine as well. Oh, I have got another plan as well. Me and my friend Sue are making Musselburgh hats together. That would probably start that. Well, she's waiting for some yarn which has been shipped off. So when her yarn arrives, which will probably take about a week, because Sue's in Canada, then we'll start the Musselburgh hats. So I do have another cast on. Yeah, we've got the same yarn, and we're going to make Musselburgh hats together. It's going to be so exciting. I love a good Musselburgh hat. Right, I'm waffling. I'm absolutely waffling. I'm really sorry. I'm going to let you all go. So the podcast will be back at the beginning. If you can hear the dog snoring, I'm so sorry. She's really loud. The podcast will be back at the beginning of April, but there will be lots of things going on the channel in between that. So it's not that you're going to miss out on anything. There's more things coming. So have a lovely month, everybody, and I will see you on the next podcast. Bye-bye.